January 17, 1943, Guadalcanal. Dawn. The jungle exhales moisture like a living thing. Through the canopy, shafts of equatorial light cut through the steam rising from mud-churned earth. A Japanese soldier, Lieutenant Yamada Eiichiro, crouches behind the shattered trunk of a mahogany tree, his uniform rotting against his skin. He has not eaten rice in 4 days. The leather of his boots has become sustenance for 2 men in his platoon. But what stops his breathing now is not hunger. It is the smell. Bread. Fresh bread. Warm and impossibly real, drifting through the morning haze like a ghost from another world. For 18 months, the Imperial Japanese Army has told its soldiers that America is a nation of soft hands and softer wills, that the men across the Matanikaw River are merchants playing at war, that their supply lines are brittle, their stomachs weak. Yamada has believed this. He has repeated it to himself through malaria fevers and the slow starvation that hollows a man from the inside. But the smell of bread that should not exist on this island of death, begins to crack something deeper than hunger. What Yamada cannot see 300 yards to the west is the American field kitchen, a canvas-topped fortress of abundance that would seem absurd if it were not so methodically real. Master Sergeant Robert McKinley of the 132nd Infantry Regiment stands before an M1937 field range, a portable steel oven that weighs 300 pounds and can bake 200 loaves in 4 hours. Around him, a choreography of supply unfolds with the precision of doctrine. Flour arrives in moisture-proof sacks from ships anchored in Iron Bottom Sound. Yeast cultures kept alive in insulated containers are mixed with water purified through portable filtration units. The dough rises in humidity-controlled boxes designed by Army engineers who understood that war is fed before it is fought. By 700 hours, the first batch emerges. 200 loaves, golden-crusted, still steaming. The men of McKinley's unit receive their portions with the casualness of routine. Some slather it with butter, actual butter, shipped in refrigerated holds from dairies in Wisconsin. Others make sandwiches with canned ham, a luxury that Japanese soldiers 400 yards away would consider a hallucination. This is not accident. This is ideology made edible. The American military supply doctrine of 1943 operates on a principle that Japan's command structure considers wasteful to the point of decadence. A fighting man cannot fight if he is hungry. The U.S. Army Quartermaster Corps has calculated that each soldier requires 4,000 calories daily in tropical combat conditions. They deliver 4,200. The logistics are staggering. 35 pounds of food per man per month transported across 6,000 miles of ocean, distributed through supply chains that treat fresh bread not as a luxury, but as a tactical necessity. The field kitchen becomes a weapon more demoralizing than artillery because it proves abundance where the enemy has been promised American weakness. Yamada watches through binoculars he can barely keep steady. He watches American soldiers throw away half-eaten portions. He watches them light cigarettes, American cigarettes, not the harsh leaf mixtures that burn Japanese throats, with matches they discard after a single use. He watches them joke, their bodies still carrying the fat of peacetime, their movements unharrowed by the hunger that makes his own platoon move like old men at 25. The Japanese soldier has been trained for deprivation. The Senjinkan military code glorifies sacrifice, teaches that surrender is dishonor worse than death, that suffering purifies the warrior spirit. Yamada has eaten grass. He has boiled tree bark. He has watched comrades die not from American bullets, but from beriberi, from dysentery, from the slow collapse of bodies asked to fight on 300 calories a day. He has done this believing that Americans too must suffer. That war is universal hunger, that the enemy across the river gnaws the same roots, endures the same darkness. The bread destroys this belief more thoroughly than any propaganda leaflet. In the field reports that would later be recovered from Japanese positions, those blood-stained journals and official communications found in abandoned bunkers, the disbelief manifests as obsession. One diary entry, dated February 1943, describes American soldiers eating white food like clouds and speculates that it must be reserved for officers only, that no army could supply such things to common infantry. Another report, filed by a starving intelligence officer, estimates American supply capacity at 1/10 of its actual volume. Because to acknowledge the truth would be to acknowledge a kind of wealth that makes the war unwinnable before the first shot. The symbolic power of the bread extends beyond nutrition. It represents a civilization that can project not just violence but normalcy across an ocean, that can maintain not just survival but comfort at the edge of the world. Every loaf becomes a sermon on industrial capacity, on the vast fat reserves of a continental nation that Japanese planners had calculated as spiritually weak. The bread says, "We are not even trying yet. This is our routine." By war's end, the disparity would become statistical horror. The average American soldier in the Pacific gained weight. The average Japanese soldier lost 40 pounds. Captured Japanese troops, interviewed in POW camps, spoke of the field kitchens with something approaching religious awe. The impossible plenty, the waste that seemed to violate natural law. Some refused to believe the bread was real until they held it, still warm, in their own hands. Yamada would not survive Guadalcanal. He would die 3 weeks after that dawn, not from American fire, but from starvation-induced heart failure. But in those final weeks, the smell of bread haunted him more than fear. It was the smell of a truth his empire had hidden. That abundance, not scarcity, could be the organizing principle of a nation. That a society could grow strong not through deprivation but through surplus. That the soft American merchants had built a war machine fed on fresh bread and the radical belief that soldiers were citizens worth feeding well. The field kitchen packed up at 900 hours, loaded onto trucks that would move it 15 miles forward by nightfall, where it would bake again. The bread, in the end, was never about bread. It was about the distance between two philosophies, one that glorified suffering and one that considered it a problem to be solved with flour, yeast, and the unshakable confidence of a nation that had never known hunger at home.